All right, and staying on the topic, this isn't a question that's adjacent to the previous, although not the same. As you know, there have been protests about the war in Israel and Palestine, including many at college campuses in Virginia, like UVA, close to home. Many younger voters have become so embittered by what they perceive as Biden's lack of action on the war that they are inclined to sit the election out or even look to a third-party candidate. What do you say to these disillusioned voters to encourage them to go to the polls to support your candidacy, even if they can't support the top of the ticket? Sure, one more time. Yeah, that was a long question. Embittered voters who don't feel that they can vote for Biden, how do you talk to them about the importance of voting even if they can't vote for the top of the ticket? How do you persuade them to vote for you?
I think it's going to be imperative that, it's three things we're going to have to ask them. Do you really think that if you vote Trump in, that he's going to leave office in 4 years? I don't think so. He'll try to stay in office. And then number two, you need to say, hey, do you think Trump's going to do better on the economy than Biden is doing? Probably not. He's going to add more debt. He's going to give more tax cuts to the wealthy, and he's going to create an inflation tornado that's going to rip through this country that nobody's ever seen. And then you have to ask the young voters, the really disillusioned ones, who's going to better protect your rights? We talked about abortion earlier and all the rights that are out there. Is Trump going to do that? No, he's not. So those are the ways you're going to have to talk to those voters. And voting for a third-party candidate at this juncture, while you may be thinking you're taking a great stand, you're actually going to hurt the country in the long haul, because if the Republicans take back the country, we're going to be in for a world of hurt for the years coming, and we may never recover. And that's not hyperbole. I think that's a truism. So we really need to enforce that and keep enforcing that, and not just to Democrats, but to the 24% of Republicans who don't want to vote for either any of the Republican candidates. We need to bring them to our side, bring them to the middle, and tell them, hey, we're going to keep the country going in the right direction. We're not going to take it back to 1953, Brown versus Board of Education type thing, which I think they really want to do. I truly do. I wasn't even born in '53.
So I support the First Amendment right to protest. I've participated in many of them myself over the years. To me, I think what we have, particularly on college campuses, is almost like a misunderstanding. To me, protesting and marching is the act itself. It identifies, it elevates awareness, and it identifies an injustice to start the conversation of legislation. So that baseline of understanding seems to be missing from our younger generation. Is that a reflection of our education system? I don't know. But usually when you march, you don't expect an immediate result. We understand it takes time. It took 20 plus years to get civil rights passed. We didn't just march one day and suddenly we had our rights. So something's going on with our education system and with the expectation that because you protest, you get an immediate result. So to me, we got to educate, reinforce that your First Amendment right is available and use it to raise awareness and to highlight injustices. But then you got to have the conversation, because nothing happens because you march. You got to pass legislation. And I think we already got legislation. Paul just defined it. But it takes time to activate all that. So I love the questioning process. Are you going to be worse off if you sit it out and lo and behold, a felon runs the country?
Okay, you asked a question about disillusioned voters. Over the last 9 months, I've been driving around our district. And one of the things that I found is a lot of the folks that were disillusioned were single-issue voters. They were single-issue voters. And so, with our youth, what's happening in Israel is very important to them. A few weeks ago, I was having lunch at a restaurant in Lynchburg, and there was a table of 3 young girls that were next to my table, and struck up a conversation, and all 3 of them were pro-life. So as we sat down and we talked, I helped them to understand, or we had a conversation, I helped them to understand why I was pro-choice. I gave them some examples of things that were happening with people. There was a young girl that lived in Indiana who was raped and got pregnant and couldn't get an abortion in Indiana. So she left the state, got an abortion, and came back. Or there was a lady in Texas who was pregnant, and at 6 months, 6.5 months, the baby had died in utero. Texas wouldn't allow her to have an abortion. She went out of the state, had an abortion, came back, and then Texas was trying to bring charges against her. So in that conversation with those 3 young ladies, they understood that there were other things to look at. And I told them, you need to take a look at everything about the candidate, or everything that is an issue out there. You cannot just be a single issue voter. You know, voting rights are important. The idea of our economy is important, especially to you, since this world is going to be yours, this country is going to be yours in a few short years.
Thank you so much.